Okay, everyone. Hello and welcome. This is the expert call for Soul to Business. And we're talking today with Laurie Seymour, and we're talking about what is quantum connection. Let me tell you a little bit about Laurie. She is a two-time international #1 best-selling author, host of the Wisdom Talk Radio podcast, executive coach, international trainer and speaker, and certified master trainer. She is the founder and CEO of the Baca Institute. She has been dedicated her life to showing you how to reliably connect with your energetic, creative intelligence, which she labels as source, dissolving old patterns of difficulty, struggle, and self-sabotage. For almost 20 years, 25 years, almost 25 years ago, Laurie was honored to receive the stewardship of a specific energetic technology that accelerates the process of interconnection and ability for quantum creation in individuals and groups. Since then, she has worked with over 1,000 people, and the technology has now reached a place with results in a system that is approachable, eloquently suited to the modern professional. After twice leaving successful careers, first as a psychotherapist and trainer, then as a solutions engineer in telecom industry, Laurie founded the Baca Institute, honoring the 25 years of inner research she and a small group of intrepid explorers did in exploring human potential through activating new energy systems. Laurie is the creator of the quantum connection process, helping you build a program, business, and life that expresses and celebrates your creative intelligence, genius, and gives you the financial flow you deserve with the time, health, and well-being to enjoy it. So I'm going to just let Melanie in here before we get started. Okay. All right.
I'm struck, Jennifer, that I have to update that. It's been a while.
Well, I loved it. It's a lot of information, which I love. So let's just talk about, hi, Melanie. Let's talk about what you mean by quantum connection. Let's start there.
Okay, because I know we talk in the same world, and we, of course, have our own unique ways of expressing that. Our quantum connection is our connection with Source. It is the fact that we live in a quantum universe. I mean, it's just what it is.
Right. And
given that we are within ourselves, we're a holographic representation of that universe. And that unexplored field, that field of potentiality, is all of that field of potential, all of those potentials we haven't lived into, we haven't tapped into, and that are possible. And that's why so much of my work and my teaching is around that inner guidance system, because it's a reality. And I'm not saying that to someone that doesn't understand that.
I get that. Same thing. So we have an awareness, right? So often this happens to me, and it happened to me this morning. I think about something, right? It's kind of like a question, and I'm thinking, and then boom, it's tangible right there, like instantly. So today I was walking the jog, and I was looking at the stuff on the ground. I was like, wouldn't it be cool if I found something cool today? And then I looked down and there's a $20 bill, and I was like, okay, that's cool. Right. Like, right. So tell us a little bit about how we engage in a practical way, because what we do is very practical. A practical way of it, about engaging our intuition, because that to me is like the chicken and the egg, right? Like I had this thought and it happened, or did I know it was going to happen? And the thought, like all of that is very chicken and the egg, right?
Yeah.
So how do we start to kind of utilize that inner system in a new way to kind of make the intangible to tangible? I forget her name. It just went out of my head. Michelle Small-Wright, there it is, Beth. Thank you. That's where I learned how to co-create with the universe, through Michelle Small-Wright, right? And she often talked about, when gardening, actually creating manure out of nothing. Like literally she wanted manure and there it was, right? So how do we do that? But not with manure, because we want just groovy stuff, right? So I'm going to let you answer the question now.
Okay, you just painted a great entry point. And I want to diverge from that a little bit, which is to say, when we go beyond that intuitive I want something to happen that's wonderful. I want to create manure. And we recognize that we are able to ask for and receive the guidance that we need every step of the way for everything.
Right.
I remember when I was pregnant, and I'm probably speaking to this right now because my daughter is about to give birth. Any
Congratulations.
day the next week. But I remember, I'd had this sensing of all these different supplements I needed to take. But what I needed to do was get even more specific and practical with that, which was to go inside and ask and bring through the information for what specific supplements I needed to take together or separately, and when in the day, and what would support my body in the best way possible. And I remember that, I'm thinking about that now because it was so practical. Along the same lines, so many of the people I work with I'm teaching how to ask those kinds of questions that show you who you need to bring onto your team, maybe what your brand colors are, whatever the practical situation that you're facing is. And then how you create that, not just how you create it, but how you bring through that guidance.
Right. They're actually calling it in.
You're tapping into that field. You're tapping in with your inner guidance system, which is not a metaphor. It's not a concept. It's a reality. We are built this way. It's part of our blueprint. And when we allow ourselves to do that and do that regularly and build those muscles, build that practice, and build the discernment, start to understand when personality is having its voice, when it's true, what I call true inner guidance.
Right. I mean, for me, it's just a popping and a knowing. And then I'm like, I did it earlier. I was wanting to have a new ebook coming out. So I was playing with it. And I knew I could feel what I wanted. And I saw it and went popped. And I was like, oh, that's it. So
Right.
what suggestions, because I think a lot of people, especially master intuitives, right? They have that kind of platform. They have that, the structure. And I think sometimes because they do it all day long, when it comes to asking for themselves, there's that little, well, how do I trust that? How do I build that trust?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So what tips do you have about tapping into and really starting to build that trust? Or, asking the question and then going with the answer, not second guessing it?
Well, you said something about the second guessing, which of course, as soon as we start to second guess, we go into the personality. We go into that part of ourselves that is linear, that wants to doubt, because to trust is scary,
right,
at least at the outset. So one of the things that I teach people how to do is around that discernment piece. And it's tuning into I'm going to use this word, and I know it's a tricky word. How does truth feel in your own body?
right.
So when I feel truth about something I've asked, something I'm querying, something that's popped in, there is a flow. It's not an excitement, because that's kind of more of the personality. That's that old ego self. Ooh, I get, all excited about this. But it has that feeling of absolute flow in the body, of relaxation, of as you said, that inner knowing. And then we can start to go into it and even ask for more details. We can, and I like to both ask inside or write. And for people beginning to ask for themselves, having the pen be the witness is a really useful thing. In other words, to get quiet, to focus in, and to ask the question of, when am I to begin this program?
Right.
Let's say you're launching a new program. What are the dates? And start working with the calendar, and to see where that lands in your own physical body. And I say physical body because people have that inner knowing, or they might have that feeling in their body, or they might hear a voice. and bringing it home to, because we are here in the physical, bringing it home to, how does this feel? Does this feel true? I often will suggest to people after they've written that they set it aside, and then they go back and they focus again a little later. And I like to recommend people focusing in their heart center, because that for me is that gateway to that big field.
Right.
And then to read it aloud and to see how it sounds. And if you feel yourself kind of popping into your head, into your thoughts, into your judgment, just say, oops, just for a moment, I forgot who I really am.
Right.
Take another breath.
Everyone, there is in Soul to Business, there is the butterfly method, which also helps you tap in and answer questions when you're moving projects or creating something. So that's also some question starters to help you. You know, I always do that kind of in creating. I do that, all of the things that my mind thinks, right? I just kind of write them out. And then, you know, I look at it and I go, okay, so which is, it always like highlights, like it to me is like a neon line, right? But it's also about really understanding your database, understanding how your soul is speaking to you, understand that connection. And I think so often people don't really understand how their soul speaks to them. And I think also while they're working with clients, that highway is different than when they're actually doing the work for themselves, right?
Yes.
And to
Yes.
understand the difference and really go, oh, okay, so uh I get a lot of visuals with clients. Don't get a lot of visuals with myself. I get a lot of knowings, right?
Yeah.
Like I just
Yeah.
know. Um so really understanding the difference is important as well, correct?
Yes. Yes. And knowing what I call your quantum connection style is really useful. If you're the kind of person that it gets lots and lots of ideas, you're filled with those ideas, and that's easy for you. But what's harder for what I call the creative dreamer is to know which one is for you. Because if you're tapping into that field and that's part of your natural style, yeah, you're going to pick up things that are really for somebody on the other side of the world.
Right. That
And
observers, pioneers, image makers, you're going to get a lot of information, you know, all of those highly, you know, energies that are like tapped into the everything of knowing. And I always ask, is this my idea to carry through?
Exactly. Exactly. And I differentiate between the creative dreamer and the pioneer, because they have different, for me and my way of working with it, they're just different ways of experiencing that quantum field. And when you know what yours are and what your mastery path is, and where do I need to develop? What do I need to, like for the creative dreamer, it's that discernment, being able to ask, is this mine to do? And is this the right timing? Because I've sometimes had visions of things or things that have come to me that are really for a couple of years down the road. They're not for now, but I need to keep asking, because that timing changes. It's not just my timing, it's how it fits in with the universe, how it fits in with others who are going to be ready or not ready for it. Who are the people I need to bring in to work with on this project and to make it real?
Yeah.
So all of that timing continues to evolve. And so if we just park it and we don't do anything about it, then we're missing the boat too.
Yeah. Again, the butterfly method, that's a great way to do it because you can actually put it in different stages of the butterfly for yourself. I created it because I had a lot of things I was birthing and I had a lot of ideas and I had no incubation time. So I would have an idea in the morning and I'd spit it out at the end of the day and I'd be like, why isn't this going anywhere? Well, because I didn't have any growing time, right? So think about all the projects you're working on, put them on the chart to see where you're doing, what needs, you know, what needs nurturing and what needs questions and support. What do you find is one of the limiting beliefs of actually creating a co-creative quantum connection. Like, where do you think people stumble and they don't even know that they're stumbling because it's so sneaky?
The one that comes to mind right now and that I see so often in my clients is having an expectation. In other words, getting attached to, oh, I heard this, or oh, I received this. This was a download, without doing anything. I mean, they may start to like run with it, but ideas have an evolution. They have an energy, and they have a frequency, and they have to evolve, as do you. And your interaction with that idea is going to evolve you. And by that very nature, you need to keep asking the questions. What am I needing to know now? How am I needing to be with this? Who do I need to talk to about this? Is today the day that I'm to do X? So that there's a fluidity, and not a locked in with an expectation of, oh yeah, presence gave this to me, therefore.
Right. And what I hear you saying also is, I think so often people establish this connection with the God goo and then forget about all the other resources on the planet, which are mostly humans, right? And we get locked down in like, oh, well, God will provide. Yeah, you got to work with humans because God's not going to send you a tree because that would be weird, right? So really tapping into all of the resources. And I love this thing about, I too believe that ideas are energy. And I think so often we get we strangle the idea, the thing that the idea is ours, right? My favorite example is the movie projector. Okay. When it was created, there were several people all across the globe creating the exact same thing. Didn't talk to anyone. There was no like mobile phones, right? Didn't talk to anyone. The universe sends out idea, energy, and multiple people might hear it in different ways.
Yeah.
And I think so often we get, oh my God, this idea is mine. And we are basing that idea on our survival or our safety.
Beautifully said.
Right.
Yeah.
And then that
Yes.
locks it down, and we can't really, there's no room for
Yeah.
evolution. There's no room for growth. Right.
Right.
There's no
There's
more
no
room for
room
the
for being an
single.
innovator in
Right.
that. And there's also there's really no room for co-creation, because
Right.
what I mean by co-creation, and maybe it's what you mean too, Jennifer, is that co-creating with the universe. Yes, we want to have it this way too. We want to co-create with others. And if we're really to be here as the co-creators that we're meant to be, that means staying attuned to, how is this idea evolving?
Right.
Oh, there's a whole new thread that comes in. Is it the right time to put it out now? So that if we're worried about somebody else is going to beat us, we're not staying attuned to that co-creative, because the energies do want to work with you. They're here and available to work with you. We need to be just as available to work with the energies of creation.
Yeah. And that's why I love when we identify a business energy languages, because that to me gives people a little more kind of something to grab onto, to understand, oh, I'm calling in this energy to co-create. So, I can, humans love words, so I can name it. Right. And then we can have this relationship on a whole new level. Um, what
And
has
we feel
been
supported. We feel
totally
supported in our own
supported?
life.
What has been your biggest learning about that quantum connection, about that quantum field?
I don't think this is exactly an answer to that
Oh,
question.
answer it any way
And
you want.
what just really is so present for me is the experience and the feeling and the knowing of unconditional love, that I am loved. And that was the thing, frankly, that I didn't know for most of my life. And my father was the one that was the external, kind of shower of that way. And he died when I was 6 years old. So I lost that person in the world that was showing that to me. And when that came back into my own experience, really every single thing in my life changed. Everything. And it's like, how can you beat that inner knowing? And that for me is also what the that discerning inner feeling body sensing is about, is when I feel that, that's what truth is. So any kind of doubt, any kind of, oh, you're not doing what somebody else is doing, or you're less than, or who are you to think of this? I know that those are all such limiting beliefs and limiting energies.
Yeah.
They're just from that amygdala part of the brain that gets scared.
Yeah.
And that other is the fullness, that
Yeah.
feeling of unconditional love. And so then I can measure any guidance that I'm getting against that feeling.
Yeah. And I think it's important because I think metaphysically there's a lot of mumbo jumbo out there about eradicating, right? Those voices. We've got to eradicate those voices, right? No. We have
Sounds
to get
very
them. We have to bring them into the folds, right? Like it, I always talk about practice, love, submission. Like you want to love those parts of you that are trying to keep you safe in those loony little ways, right? Those limiting parts back into the fold and, really love them. And I think, my biggest awareness really lately, which is odd to say, is like, oh, wait, no. The world's not happening to me. It's really happening through me. Like a whole new level happened lately. And I was like, oh, wait. No. That's really true. Like again, thought of a $20, thought of like a good thing. There's a $20 bill, right?
Yeah.
Like really starting to kind of embody that and embrace that. And I think when people are creating their business for themselves, not being the business, meaning not working on clients or doing that interaction, because you're all great there. Like I have no problem. Like
Right.
there, you guys are all great. It's when you have to actually create the business, when you step out of supporting others, that we all go a little crazy, right? How do we open up to participating in what people would call miracles more?
Well, I'd say it's a miracle when I have a little different take on what you just said about the loving all the parts. I'm not fond of the eradication. That feels violent.
Yeah.
It's more for me that those other things start to dissipate and disappear. They're just like, oh, I just noticed, for example, with self-doubt, which was a big one for me, that's not really very often there.
Right.
So I don't
Because you've
need to
loved
either
it.
eradicate it
Right.
or
Yeah.
love it.
Well, because you've like, all it wants to be is listened to, right? And once you listen to it, acknowledge it, then it just kind of dissipates.
I wouldn't even, I don't think of it that way, actually. I think of it as as I've allowed that self-love to be there, that vibration of unconditional love, it's a frequency that the other, which is also a frequency, just, it doesn't.
We're saying the same thing, Pink and Sam.
Okay.
Yeah, we're saying the same thing.
So the feeling of, I'm just trying to, what did the question that you asked, I think I lost the thread of.
So how does one have a willingness to participate more in the miracles of that quantum field, right?
Receiving, the willingness to receive. If you are like I was for so much of my life, somebody that thought I have to work hard, that life is a struggle, and that's what I saw. And my mother had 4 kids when my father died. Yeah. Of course, life was a struggle. Well, I say of course, but certainly for her.
Right. That was the experience.
That was the experience. Right. And so miracles, they just seem like the farthest thing from what the reality that I could see was. The your own capacity to receive. Right now, I'm so aware of a client that is opening up this really big program, and that her work is the receiving of the people that are going to be part of this program.
Yeah.
How does she receive that? How does she allow herself to be open to receive? I do a regular energy activating meditation program every week. How do people allow themselves to receive what the energies wish to do, wish to provide, wish to offer? What miracles become very everyday.
Yeah.
Because they just are.
Because you're in the flow, and
Because you're
that's
in the
right.
flow.
That's the
And they're not
vibration.
really
Yeah.
miracles. They
Yeah.
are part and parcel of being part of this quantum universe.
Yeah. I think it's being open to receiving. I think it's acknowledging for me. I
Yes.
also think
Yes.
it's
Yes.
it's noticing where I'm sneaky not receiving.
Mhm.
Very sneaky in my life, right?
Yeah.
Like for the first year of our relationship, Warner would be like, "Can I take out the garbage?" I hate taking out the garbage. I mean, I hate it. I'm like, "No, no, no, I got it." What? Are you kidding?
Right.
Like I started letting him take out the garbage, income went up like that. It's a sneaky little hidden thing, right?
Right. Right.
Really notice when, where, and how you're stiff arming the universe,
Yeah.
right? Because I think, especially for people who have warrior energy, sorry, my wrist keeps going on, warrior energy, we can really we have to be the strongest person in the room, right? We
Mhm.
are the strongest person in the room. And so it's really noticing um when you won't ask, when you won't open up to receiving. So
Mhm.
several years ago, I was in a slump. I was in such a slump. And my very good friend goes, "Jennifer, ask me for $100." And I'm in the supermarket.
Mhm.
I'm crying. I was like, I can't. She's like, "Why?" I was like, I can't ask you for $100." She's like, "Ask me." I was like, I literally, I can't even speak. I can't get it out.
Mhm.
She goes, "Ask me for $100." I was like, "Okay, can I have $100?" She's like, "Yep, I'm there it is." And it was such a breakthrough moment,
Mm.
right? Because I was like, I actually have to I ask for it, but what if you don't? She's like, "I'm telling you, I'm giving it." I'm like, "But I, right?" And
Yeah.
then the next day I got like 4 new clients, right? I'm like, "Oh, okay." Right. But it's those moments, really notice what's for me, what's going on, where are you in your connection, right? Right. One of my,
Yeah. When I'm looking outside and looking at what somebody else has got,
yeah,
I know that I just shut down the the receiving channels. And so before I go to bed at night, it's really useful for me. It's really important for me, actually, more than useful, uh, to look through the day and just to go through, what are the things, and I will ask, this is another one of the things I will ask and allow to be brought to me. What are the things that I can acknowledge about the day? Because they're not the big things. Those are easy to acknowledge.
right.
They're those little things of how somebody smiled at me, how someone spoke to me, what someone offered, a kind word, um, a sunset that I had forgotten that I even noticed. Uh, Whatever it is, to go through that and allow yourself and breathe them in, receive them,
Yeah.
because it's so powerful as a way to shift that warrior, that I've got to do it all,
Yeah.
that life isn't going to give you anything that you don't create yourself.
Yeah. I mean, I see it a lot when with the doc, right? Because she's been reactive, right? And so
Mm.
I for a while was like, "Oh, she did all this bad stuff." Then I'm like, "What? Like, what am I doing?" Like,
Mhm.
she did all this freaking amazing things. Like, we passed the bus and the guy on the bike and the jogger, and I'm worried that she barked at that thing. Like, she had
Right.
three, like, real. And so if I'm doing it with her, I'm doing it with me, right?
Mhm.
And really just slowing down and pausing and being reconnected.
Mm.
And really, for me, also noticing where I'm in my connection. Like, when
Mhm.
I make a decision, I go, is this going to bring me closer to connection or farther away for me?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And to really acknowledge that, because sometimes I do the things that make me far away, but I
Yep.
acknowledge it. And so then I'm a little closer in that connection because I've acknowledged it.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Like, oh, that's the awareness piece.
Yeah.
That is, we can't emphasize that enough. I think that awareness, but not just awareness, the awareness. And then, is there some action I need to take around this?
Yeah.
What is that action?
Mm.
Because this isn't about it being part of a passive universe.
No.
The universe is so active and it's available. But we have to do our piece of it so that we step closer to what it is that we're moving towards.
Yeah. Before we wrap up with our last question and open it up for questions, how do people get in touch with you?
The best place is on my website, which is the Baca Institute. That's B as in boy, BACA Institute.com. And that's where the quantum connection quiz is. That's where Wisdom Talk Radio can be found. That's where, lots and lots of meaty kinds of guidance for you can be found, as well as information about all the different programs that I offer.
Yeah. And that will be, it's already in the calendar that you guys got today. It will also be for people who are watching in the notes below as well. So please reach out to this amazing woman. I don't think you'll be sorry. What do you want people to remember or take away from our conversation today?
That the inner guidance system is real. That your inner guidance system is real. And it's not just for some people. It's not just about, oh, they're an intuitive. That's not me.
Yeah.
I really do make a distinction between inner guidance and intuition, or inner guidance and instinct. And it's all about honing that capacity that you have.
Yeah. From how you're explaining it, that inner guidance to me also is a more conscious building tool than intuition, right? It took
Yes.
me a really long time to know
Yeah.
that highly intuitive people weren't highly conscious people, that they could be
Right.
different, right?
Absolutely.
And it
This is
sounds
about that higher consciousness.
right,
Absolutely.
which in the long run, it's a better deal, right? It's a better evolutionary path. And, you know, it's always going to choose or help you choose that decision that is not only in your greatest good, but also the ease of flow.
And you being that co-creator.
Yeah.
There's so much that's needed. And, what is it that your part in this is? What is your unique expression? And that to me is what really excites me the most, is what are you here to express and share?
Yeah. Our pain is kind of boring, everyone. It's our unique connection. That's exciting. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm going to pause and then I'm going to I'm going to turn off the recording.